Hi everyone, let's talk about the issues in rural areas in LICs. Over here, I've listed down 3 of the main issues. Number 1 being rural to urban migration. That is the movement from a rural area to an urban area, so something like a village to a town or a city. And although this is listed down as an issue, there are some advantages. For example, less pressures on the resources, so you don't need to deforest as much, or you're able to accommodate the people there with jobs, so there's less unemployment. And you also might get remittances. So that's the money that comes back from the migrants in the urban areas. And generally, the wages in urban areas are higher than rural areas. So the idea is you might get more money back on your investments going to the urban area. The negatives wise, there's rural depopulation that comes with migration. And with that comes an aging population and a lack of labor, which deteriorates the rural economy. With less population, less people working and less people buying stuff, there's less demand, and therefore services close down because they can't earn any money. There's no business anymore. The next issue is diseases, specifically sexually transmitted infections or STDs, STIs, and that's especially prevalent in rural areas because there's a lack of education about these issues, and also not a lot of availability of contraception to prevent these issues. So, for example, Niger, there's a lot of STIs going around, which is one of the issues. Rural poverty is the last one, and it's the main one. 60% of global poverty is from rural poverty, and in sub-Saharan Africa, 65 to 90% of the national poverty in these countries come from rural poverty. And a lot of the times, urban poverty results from rural poverty because the people, the rural dwellers, are in poverty. They want to better their standard of living, so they might migrate. The first issue. But then that brings on their poverty to the urban area because they don't have the skill or capabilities to lift themselves up in the urban area. And the causes of rural poverty, number 1 is political instability, so something like a civil war, which pushes back your development, and they might put landmines on the ground, so that really inhibits your development in your areas. Systemic discrimination might occur in 2 ways. So number 1 is your general things such as a caste system, or maybe discrimination based on race and gender. So that kind of pushes people of certain characteristics down, and whilst other benefits, but then you get a pool of people that are in poverty. Corruption is also another issue where aid money that gets sent to help these rural areas don't really get to them, and they are pocketed by politicians or just people transferring the money, and so you don't see the full effects of the money helping these rural areas. Natural disasters are also an issue. So if people are constantly hit by natural disasters, they have to keep fixing their houses. But once they have recovered, another natural disaster comes in and sweeps their house. And that, again, causes a cycle of poverty. And the last thing is property rights. So property rights are basically the right you have to own a land. And in rural areas, agriculture is very dominant. So land is kind of the main thing you need for money. But in LIC specifically, property rights aren't really well defined, or at least they're not well enforced. So this means that a lot of the times there's a lot of conflict between property rights, and generally you get the wealthier landlords winning out, and the poorer farmers they don't have any land, so they can't farm, and therefore they go into poverty. So this sums out the issues in rural areas in LICs. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.